Some video games are better played with your doors locked for multiple reasons. And that's what we're going to talk about today. If you've ever played video games while living with your parents, which I'm pretty sure everybody watching this has, there's probably some games that you might be a little embarrassed for them to see you playing. Welcome to Chaos Gaming. We're going to go over some games that you should probably lock the door before booting them up. Drop a like, let me know if you've played or owned any of these games. And let's start off with Mount Your Friends. Now, this has to be one of the funniest games ever made because of how ridiculous it is, but also how hard it can be. Seriously, you play as a buff bodybuilder trying to make a giant human tower with his buddies. Lucky for you, I mean, it's funny. Let's just put it that way. It's a super funny game, but it's probably going to lead to some interesting conversations with your parents. Now, a lot of parents just don't find this kind of thing funny, which is a shame because it's objectively hilarious. You should probably just avoid the conversation altogether if you can. Next up, South Park, the stick of truth. Too many parents out there. Yep, South Park is the absolute worst thing in the universe to them. So it shouldn't be too much of a shocker to see it here. Now, this was a South Park RPG developed by none other than Obsidian Entertainment with a little help from the show's creators. In terms of the game itself, it's fun. And the style is straight out of the show. The writing's really good and the gameplay's pretty standard, but it works well in the context of the game. But if you know anything about South Park, you should know what kind of stuff you're going to be getting from this dialogue. It is truly an offensive game, and it had to be censored in multiple countries just to get a release. Now, if you're a fan of the series, you're going to love this. Your parents? Probably not so much. Next up, Bayonetta. One of the most recognizable characters in gaming. Despite the first game not selling well, the series garnered a massive following over the years because the games are good. Then, once the main character was added to Super Smash Bros., everybody knew her. Bayonetta is a very fast-paced, stylish hack and slash starring a witch equipped with a lot of weapons and a whole arsenal of spells to use. But it's also pretty graphic, okay? If you're a fan of hack and slash games like God of War or Devil May Cry, you are going to love it. The next one your parents hate. For centuries. Not centuries. Decades. Sorry. Mortal Kombat. It is the most renowned fighting game franchise in the world, but it's also one of the most violent games ever made. It started all the way back in the 90s. It has since progressed through tons of consoles, arcade machines, gaming PCs, everywhere. Now, the series has walked away from the skimpy outfits for the ladies. The blood and gore, though, is more prominent than ever, and it's certainly going to get you in some hot water with your mom or dad. One minute you'll be in an honest punch 'em up with somebody, the next minute you'll be pulling their spine out in glorious fashion. Mortal Kombat is awesome. But if you have parents who are concerned about the level of violence in video games, yeah. Next up, Saints Row 4. I mean, this has rubbed plenty of parents the wrong way, but Saints Row 4 took it to a whole new level. As you probably know, Saints Row is pretty obviously a GTA clone, but it has evolved into its own wacky, comedic, open-world action game. Every new installment amps things up even further, and Saints Row 4 definitely escalated beyond the point of remotely being family-friendly. Blood, gore, giant guns, everything, you name it. It was also one of the best games of the year, and I think it's arguably the best game in the entire series, but you should probably wait until you're home alone for this one. Sure, you can do your best to avoid it while your parents are there, but I mean, it's an open-world game. You never know when something's going to be thrown at you. At number 5, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Now, this is one of the best 3D platformers ever made, but it also pissed off a ton of parents upon release. It came out in 2001 for the N64. It's basically a parody of other popular games like Super Mario, Spyro, Banjo-Kazooie. So on the surface, it looks like your standard lighthearted 3D platformer. You quickly find out that's not the case. There is a lot going on here. Heck, one of the first boss fights is with a big turd. I mean, Conker's Bad Fur Day is amazing, and you can play it as part of the Rare Replay collection on Xbox. Just don't let the lighthearted art style fool you. It's not technically a game for kids. Neither is Yakuza. It has a huge following. It's well-deserved. The series started back 16 years ago. It's since grown into being one of the most successful RPG franchises on the market. The story revolves around a crime syndicate with a few different protagonists depending on the game. You take on rival gangs. You try to help your community. You sift through various conspiracies and you plot to take them down. Like many open-world crime games, Yakuza has all the stuff parents hate. Violence in the streets, cold-blooded murder, scantily clad women, you name it, it's there. You should probably have some privacy when you boot this one up. At number 3, The Binding of Isaac. It's another game that looks kid-friendly on the surface, but when you get into the meat of it, you'll find out it is not. The whole game revolves around a mom who hears a message from God telling her to murder her son. Then you play as the son trying to escape the basement and get away from the mom. She's the final boss. It's a fantastic game, and some call it the best indie game ever made, but the content itself, you're going to get a lot of questions from your parents. Your best option is to play it when they're not home. At number 2, Doom. You know what pisses parents off more than graphic violence? How about satanic imagery? So what happens when you mix them together? Well, you get one of the best FPS franchises ever, but you also get a game that parents have been targeting for 30 years. Kicked off in the 90s. It's had its ups and downs. It's now back to being one of the biggest games in the world thanks to the rebooted series from ID Software and Bethesda. I mean, this you know it. Doom, classic, right? But parents, well, they don't like demons, so they're probably not going to like it. And at number 1, no shocker, GTA, the whole franchise, obviously picked, right? I mean, it's one of the most offensive fun games ever made, and there's a reason why GTA 5 has been dominating sales charts for 8 years. But it's not all joy rides and golf matches. You never know what you're going to hear, in this game. You just don't. And granted, that's what part of makes it it's fun, but you live with your parents, keep it low, keep it really low. Parents have been throwing pitchforks at Grand Theft Auto since the early 2000s, and they're never going to stop. I mean, Rockstar clearly doesn't care what the parents think, so they're just going to keep doing them, which will obviously lead to plenty of additional outrage for us to watch while we eat popcorn. GTA is probably the last thing you want your protective parents to see you playing, so take my word for it. Make sure the door is shut and firmly locked if you're going to turn this one on. And there you have it. Those are some games you should probably lock the doors. Let me know where you agree or disagree. Let me know one game that didn't make it that should have, and I'll see you soon.